Welcome back, and today I'm going to go over all of my edge and corner setups for the Old Pochman method, as well as a few tips and tricks to help make your executing faster as well as safer when you can't see your hands. This is actually going to be a part 1, part 2. Next week I'll have a video with some memorization tips for the Old Pochman method, but for now, let's get into edge setup moves. I didn't really want to make this video because when you're first starting out with blind solving, you shouldn't feel like there's a bunch of algorithms that you need to memorize. I see this as sort of like F2L, where it should really be muscle memory so that you don't have to direct all your attention to one thing, especially in blind solving when you already have to memorize a bunch of letters in a row. But I also understand that certain letters can be a bit challenging for beginners, so this video is just to point you in the right direction as you begin getting comfortable with blind solving. You should already know the RA perm, the T perm, and the Y perm just as a minimum knowledge for this method of blind solving. But if you really want help with your edge setup moves, I think there is one more algorithm you need to learn, and this is the JB perm. I have this algorithm on my channel, and this is going to allow you to switch your buffer position with C, as well as swapping the corners like normal. This is going to make certain trickier letters a lot easier because now you don't have to put them into D, you can just put them into C and then do this algorithm. Let's start with all of the edges in the middle layer. So this is going to be your H, F, L, J, P, N, T, and R. All of these can be set up using wide D moves and then an L move. So let's just pick a random one. Let's pick P. As you can see, I can just do a wide D move and then move it up, and now it's in the D position. If I were to choose other ones, I may have to do a double D flick, like if I have this J here, I'll have to go like that, then move it down into the D position. But it's good to have similar algorithms for all of these so that when you're thinking about the letter, you don't have to think about a special algorithm for it, you can just go right into the move. We also have the 4 edges on the bottom, U, V, W, X. These can be set up really easily just by putting it into the X position and then moving it using an L2 into D, then doing a T perm. Now let's talk about the other side of the bottom edges. This is going to be your K, O, S, and G. These are actually a lot easier now that you know the J perm, because you can easily set them up using an M move. As you can see, if I had an O, I can move the O over here, and then just do an M prime, and now it's in this C position. I can simply just do my JB perm, undo my setup moves, and that is the same as trying to do like 3 or 4 moves to set it up into the D position. And with that, that is all the letters on the bottom 2 layers. Now let's talk about the remaining 6 letters. D, of course, is just a T perm, and then now you know C, which is just a JB perm. The letter I is a little bit tricky. I usually move it down and then up into D. I'm sure that there's a better way to do this, but when I'm trying to think of I like to have a consistent algorithm I can use, even if it's not the fastest. For E, I typically move it down into the F, and then just do the setup move for F, so it looks a little bit something like this. I would do my T perm. For A, there's a number of things you can do. I like to do M2, D2, M2. This puts it into C. Then I can just do my JB perm, M2, D2, M2. As you can see, the letter A is actually the reverse J perm, but doing something like that is a little iffy when you have a blindfold on. And last but not least, we have the letter Q. This is actually really easy. All you have to do is M, then you can just do your JB perm, and then put it back into Q. Well, there you go. That's all of your edge setup moves. You might have noticed that I didn't put any algorithms up on screen, and that's because I don't want you to memorize it like an algorithm. You should just memorize it how it feels so that you can do it quickly and without thinking too much when you're in the middle of a solve. And with that, we move on to corners. There's no extra algorithms you need to learn for this step. I'm just going to go over all the letters. Let's start with the 4 on the bottom. These can all be set up very easily into V just by moving the D layer. So if I needed W, I would simply just do a D prime. It's already in the V spot. For the other sides of these corners, these can all be done using D moves, F moves, and R moves. If I had something like G, all I would have to do is just an F prime to set it up into V. But if I had something like L, I would have to do a D2 R to set it up into V. Let's trace that piece. So D2, it's on the back right now. and then I just move that up. Now it's on the V spot. I can just choose any of these pieces on the bottom corners, and I can do it using those moves. For the corners on the top, B can just be an R2, D can just be a F2. That sounds a little confusing, but I mean D the letter, not D the move. And then C, I like to do F2, D. For I and J, J is just simply an R prime, while I do an F R prime. And M and N are similar. M is, of course, just the classic Y perm. You start with an F, and then N, you do R prime F to get that into the V spot. And of course, these corner setup moves are just the same on the 2x2. In next week's video, I'm going to show you how you can get a lot better 3x3 blindfolded by practicing 2x2 blindfolded. Well, there you have it. There's all the setup moves for the Old Pochman method. I hope this video is helpful to you, and for the future, good luck.